Hold up here, y'all. No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
Thank you. We're a community and world in mourning right now. A couple of weeks ago, many of us saw George Floyd with a policeman's knee to his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, as 3 other cops complicitly watched as his life left his body. This father cried for his mom, repeatedly saying, "I can't breathe." We also saw how even when George took his last breath, the knee stayed for a couple of more minutes. The murder of George Floyd was a complete disregard for Black life. In the middle of the street, in broad daylight, and I'm not going to say he was treated like an animal, because even animals deserve better treatment than that. As a mother of Black and brown kids that are more likely to be killed by police than their white or white Hispanic counterparts, I'm scared. Scared because of my Black nephew told me the other day that he can name more innocent Black lives that were killed by the police than he can name teachers that look like him in the school system, and that's a problem. And I'm scared, y'all. And I've been talking to a lot of other moms of Black and brown kids. We all scared. But I too am inspired. I'm inspired by the unity throughout the world to adjust these unjust systems. I'm also inspired because of the young people that are leading these efforts, like Kyle and Jade, to and saying no more to systemic injustice, and allowing OGs like me to follow their lead and honoring my voice. Unfortunately, there have been too many deaths to racial violence, but this one was different. This one sparked something in all of us. In ages, races, and faiths all across the world, people in every part of this earth are saying their names. In Hong Kong, they're saying Breonna Taylor. In London, they're saying George Floyd. And in Chelsea, we say Trayvon Martin, Ayanna Stanley Jones, Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Philando Castile, Sandra Bland, Tamir Rice, Emmett Till, just to name a few. Not to blame races or to blame professions, but we must recognize and take accountability for the roles that we play in these systems that were created by our ancestors that didn't take into consideration the beauty of unity that we know. Many of us have subscribed to these systems because we can't imagine better, and similarly, I can imagine that slaves couldn't imagine a world without a master. People say that the system is broken, but I think it's actually working exactly how it was intended to work. It's a system that is based on the fundamental and foundational belief that Black people are 3/5 of a human. We are abiding by a system that was established to leave us behind, where the anti-Blackness is so ingrained it has people of color rejecting or resenting their own skin. We are at a pivotal point, my friends, to be having tough conversations about reimagining what serving and protecting looks like. It is up to us to foster a world where the knee is off of our neck. I was a victim of police brutality in the 90s, so I have intimate experience with the power tripping of police. I was there screaming for my mom, asking for help. I got no response. This cop would follow me outside of the city, threaten me every chance he got, and complaint after complaint I filed, there was no accountability. Yet those I complained to kept moving up in the ranks until the day he finally got me and beat me over the head with a flashlight, charged me with assault and battery. I got convicted of that crime and served time for that, for his crime. And I remember coming out and how the police would laugh at me when I walked down the streets. I carried that for over 20 years until just a couple of days ago when I said, why am I holding on to this? This isn't mine. I'm going to charge this one up to an unjust system and carry on. I constantly carry the burden knowing that had I been a Black man, I probably wouldn't even be here today. Yes, they do. The problem in policing is rooted far too deeply in the belief that some lives are just not important. And there have been too many lives lost at the hands of the police and racial inequities in all our systems. Now I know Chelsea has made great strides, but this isn't about individual police, because there are many good people in the police force that just want to serve honorably and go home to their families. And I want that for them too. Yes. At the end of the day, we are just humans trying to do the best we can. But with that humanity comes the responsibility of acknowledging the flaws in our system and addressing them. Right now, we are the hotspot in the state for COVID-19. Black and brown communities across this country are being hit disproportionately at rates higher than whiter communities. Now, COVID-19 doesn't go out looking for black and brown communities. It doesn't. It's the underlying health conditions that allow us to not be able to fight it. It's the lack of investments in our communities. It's allowing these big corporations and federal and state agencies to pollute our waters and pollute our airs without taking into accountability the impact it has on our lungs.
Right.
Environmental injustice disproportionately affects black and brown communities. Housing policies disproportionately affects black and brown communities. Criminal justice system disproportionately affects black and brown communities. Inability to get bank loans, underfunding of our schools, voter suppression, access to medical care disproportionately affects black and brown communities. But at the end of the day, it is our taxpayer dollars that fund their salary and feed their system. So it is up to us to make sure the system reflects our values and brings us the justice we deserve.
Hey.
Until our kids can recall more leaders in the community that look like them than the amount of dead black bodies due to racial violence, until the number of healing spaces outnumber penitentiaries and corporations and agencies are held accountable for the threats they pose, and until we invest more in empowering our children rather than policing them, until we create a world where there is dignity and justice for all, there shall be no peace. No justice! No justice! No justice! I love y'all.
Love you.